Good morning and welcome to this hybrid meeting of Planning Committee on Tuesday the 26th of March 2024. I am Councillor Jeff Jones, the chair of this meeting. Just to make you all aware, today's meeting will be recorded. Can I also welcome any members of the public and press to today's meeting? Can I kindly ask you to observe the meeting only and not speak or participate? Please ensure that your phones are switched to silent for the duration of the meeting. Members, if you wish to speak or ask a question, please raise your electronic hand on Teams or physical hand in person. I will now move on to agenda item 1, Chair's announcements. I can confirm I have no announcements to make. Agenda item 2 is declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest?
I see no indication, Chair.
Thanks, Chloe. Agenda item 3, minutes of the previous meeting. The minutes from the meeting held on the 12th of September 2023 are attached on pages 7 and 8 of the agenda pack for approval. Does any member have any comments to make on the accuracy of these minutes? Please can I have a proposer and a seconder to approve the minutes?
I see no comments for accuracy, Chair, so if we can have a proposer and seconder. Proposed by Councillor Misen and Councillor Sarah Thomas, you seconding there?
Yep, that's right.
Perfect, thank you. I can confirm those minutes have been approved.
Agenda item 4 is a request for site visits. Are there any members wishing to suggest a site visit on the applications presented today or for any other matter? Please also let me know if you wish to call for a site meeting at any point in the meeting. Now we move on.
Sorry, I see no indication, Chair.
Sorry, Chloe. Thank you. Now we move on to section A of the agenda, which is matters for decision. The first application we will look at today is application number P2023-0858, Crown Wharf, Talbot Docks. The report is set out on pages 9 to 96, and this application is recommended for approval. I would now like to ask the planning officers to take us through the report. Chris?
Thank you, Chair. This is planning application number 2023-0858. Demolition of existing structures and erection of a sustainable aviation fuel SAF production facility, including the production of green hydrogen and sustainable diesel, enclosed ground flare, storage tanks, installation of pipework and electrical processing and utility equipment, administration, warehouse and laboratory buildings, new access, car parking, transport infrastructure, including a truck loading area and associated works, hard and soft landscaping, areas for temporary construction laydown and associated development. This is located at Crown Wharf, Talbot Docks, Talbot, and the applicant is Lanzatech. I would draw members' attention to the report and also the amendment sheet, and to make them aware that this is a environmental impact assessment supported application and a major application within the area. So you see the site located here. The site is located within the working area of ABP within the docks. And the application site is there indicated on the plan that you see in red. And you can see that below the area is the existing stocking yards for Tata. And you can see the docks located to the left-hand side. And the lock gates into the dock area, which is to the north of the site, are also indicated on there, and you'll see the M4 over on the far corner of the plan. Again, this is just to give you an overview of the context of the site in terms of where it is in the wider area. You can see the centre of Talbot there, Tata in the distance with the location of the application site identified, and the motorway that cuts through the middle there. So there's a few things that will come up during the presentation now. So what you can see there is the production development zone. So that's the main area of the application site, and then the other areas there indicated in red are temporary construction areas or lay down areas during construction. The dock that would serve the development by ship is located to the north of the site, which is accessed through the dock gates from the harbour. This again is another plan showing the location. This shows the layout of the site. The green area there is the tanker loading area. You see the area in the dock where the ships would come in to bring in the ethanol for the production of the sustainable aviation fuel, and they would also be taken out by ship through that dock area. So the main process area there is within the slightly yellow colour, and the blue area there is the administration area, with the other red areas indicated on the plan as the laid down areas and temporary construction areas. This is more detailed overview of the site. What you have is the larger elements to the back of the site where the existing rail embankment runs, bounding the site and the existing stocking yards of Tata. So the larger elements there located at the back, the largest of which goes up to about 50 metres. You've got the ground flare indicated on the right-hand side. That's approximately 20 metres high. The tanks in blue and green range from anything between about 12 and 20 metres high. And then you've got the administration section there on the left-hand side, and those buildings range from between 10 and 15 metres high. And you've got approximately 57 car parking spaces then provided on site. All right, pardon me for my understanding of chemical processes, but this is generally the understanding of how the alcohol to jet fuel process goes. So basically, sustainably sourced ethanol produced from either waste gases or starches is shipped into the site. The ethanol then goes through a number of processes. Those are all set out in the report on pages 6 and 7. So it first goes through a dehydration process. So this process removes the water molecules from the ethanol. This then goes through a separator and produces ethylene. It then goes through an algomerization process, and this turns the small molecules into longer, more complex chains of molecules with repeating components. Then through a hydrogenation process, which adds hydrogen to the longer molecules, saturating the double bonds in the molecular chain. And then finally goes through a fractation process, and that divides the product into the particular fuels. So due to the process, there is always an element of sustainable diesel that's produced. So there's two products that are produced from the development. It will be, as set out in the report, there'll be about 69,100 tons of sustainable jet fuel and 8,800 tons of renewable diesel. The percentages can obviously change dependent on the process, but the main process here and obviously the justification for the scheme is for the production of the jet fuel. We've got some images here of the main site entrance into the site, the administration building, the car park, and the water tanks. And again, some visualizations of the main site entrance and the production development zone. So the building in the foreground, the structure in the foreground is the highest element of it, which says approximately 50 metres, with the tanks there that you see within the site, anything between 12 and 20 metres. Again, an alternative view of the development. So you can see some of the buildings that are going to be demolished in the background, but there's obviously some tanks, again, that will be retained as part of Tata's development. The sustainable jet fuel storage tanks, the processing area at the back, and the ethanol feedstock storage tanks. So we're going to go through some of the LVI images from the environmental impact assessment. So what you'll see is the various viewpoints will be highlighted with a blue circle, and then we'll show you the existing and proposed with the CGI images of the development superimposed. We've got viewpoint 1. So viewpoint 1 is from Harbour Way North roundabout. So this building here that you'll see in a lot of the images, and you'll be glad to know we've got a little video to show you as well after. This building is Hanson's, so this is quite for those in Talbot and Aberafon, you will recognise this building. You see it from quite a few places. So this is the existing, and that's with the proposed development. 3.2. This is from Harbour Way East Roundabout. Again, you'll see the Hanson's building. .3. So this is from the Wales Coastal Path. .4. This is up at Broom Hill at Penacay. So as you can see the cranes on the skyline there, the existing cranes. .5. This is from Abbey Road in Talbot. And if you look at the gap between the houses at the bottom, so there's the development superimposed on the blue line there that you see. 2.6. This is the footpath near Margam at Mynydd Brombill. Again, you can see the Hanson's building and the cranes. 2.7. Again, this is from the coastal path at Mariners Point. .8. This is from Darwin Road, Little Warren Plainfields. .9. This is Lake Road near the junction with Burns Road. And finally, viewpoint 10. This is the view from Carmarthen Road. Again, that's the largest structure that you see there in the centre that's coming up. That was again approximately 50 metres. I'm going to stop sharing the presentation for a second, and subject to technology working, we're going to show you a drone video. Unfortunately, there's no like dramatic music to go with this. You'll have to just hear me talking all the way through it, telling you what's happening. Okay. Yeah, that's working. So this is the application site. So the whole of that area in the center that you see on the right-hand side is the existing embankment with the rail line. You've got the dock as the part of the port, and the vehicles you see running down that road, that's an internal road within the docks. So as the drone spins round, you'll see in the top corner Hanson's, so the large building that we saw on the previous images. That's just coming into view now on the top of the video. Again, you can see the rail track coming down at the bottom and the existing internal road. So as you pan round, you'll see the entrance to the dock gates. And coming in at the top of the screen now are the residential developments of Aberafon, and you'll see the seafront in the distance. Just coming now in on the left are the arms of the harbour on the top end of the stocking yards for Tata. As it spins round now, you'll see the cranes coming into view at the top corner of the site. And obviously you can see the scale of the area in terms of the size of the stocking yards currently for Tata, and obviously the size of the site as it exists. And obviously some of this area that's coming in at the bottom with the tanks, some of that is going to be used as laid down area and construction area as well. So this is where the magic happens. I'll just pause it there for a second. So that's superimposed for the images of the site. Don't expect this for every planning application, by the way. So you've got the car park in the administration area, the tanks. As you said, this is the larger structure at the back with the embankment running at the back. All this area at the top corner then is the existing stocking yards. And just to be aware that obviously all of this area is within the port, so it's a private area. There's no public access through. There's a separate access into the docks area. So all of this is kind of part of the working port. Some of the stocking yards are currently leased from ABP to Tata at the moment, and all of this land is owned by Tata and within the working dock. I'll just press play on the video again. It's not. Yeah, I'll go for that. So as the video continues, you'll see the scale of the stocking yards at the back of the site. And more of Tata will come into view, including the existing blast furnaces that you'll see in the distance now. There's the blast furnaces coming into view at the top corner of the site now. And again, this is the Hanson's development that you'll see coming round at the bottom. And the dock there that the ships would come in to both load the ethanol and to take the sustainable jet fuel away by ship. You'll see the vehicles moving on the lower end are that's the PDR in the distance, and then at the top you'll see the vehicles moving on just below the line of the mountains behind as the elevated sections of the motorway. And obviously on the opposite side of the dock, you've got further development within the dock area. So again, they superimpose the development on there. This element at the front here, this small tower, that's the enclosed flare that's used at startup and to close down for any emergencies. The tanks, again, various storage tanks for the ethanol and the jet fuel. That again, they're between about 15 and 20 meters. And you've got the production area at the back with the larger tower. But you can obviously see the context and scale of the site in relation to the adjoining developments in terms of the scale of Tata and the other commercial and industrial developments in that area. So I'll stop sharing that one. And we'll go back to the presentation. Okay. So in terms of our assessment of the application, we've had external consultants look at both air quality and noise. So they've been looked at by experts that we've employed as part of this assessment. So there's a number of emission sources on site that have been taken into account within that assessment. So there's boiler stacks, the flare, generators, emergency generators, fire water pumps, and other sources that have been considered, including road and ship loading, hydrogen, cooling towers, etc. So all of these have been assessed by the consultant as part of this application. As you note from the details within the report, They've highlighted no issues in terms of any significant impacts in terms of air quality. In terms of human receptors, all of these have been various markers where they've looked at different points of source modelling for the proposals. And in terms of ecological receptors, they've also looked at the SACs and SSSIs. Just to make you aware that obviously planning permission is obviously just one element of this proposal. And as we've got set out within the report, there's a table there on pages 15 and 16, which shows all the other consenting processes that are required for this development, including permits and marine licenses from NRW. In terms of noise, they've considered all the enclosed noise receptors. Again, consultants have looked at this on our behalf. They've looked at residential, commercial receptors. They've looked at noise during construction and operation. They've considered lots of different scenarios in terms of the modelling for construction to ensure the worst case scenarios are being considered as part of the application, and considered obviously day and night operations part of the proposals. Again, those are all set out within the report and have highlighted no significant issues. And there's obviously controls in terms of hours of construction that we've got in there and various other construction management plan conditions. So in terms of the noise impacts during construction and the noise impacts during operation, these have all been assessed and considered to be acceptable as part of the application process. In terms of highways, as stated, the ethanol and the jet fuel are likely to go in and out of the site via the dock, but they've assessed all the existing junctions and considered worst case scenario if there was a problem with the dock and they had to tanker product in and out of the site for a short period. But in terms of all the assessments that have been undertaken in terms of the highway network, it's well within permitted guidance and doesn't cause any issues in terms of any congestion. Again, it's got an existing access straight in off the PDR. They used to have to go through the docks via Tata's Welcome Centre, but they've recently, ABP have reopened up their access directly into the site, so they now have access straight in. In terms of active travel, the applicants have assessed the existing active travel network, and as part of the application, clearly, people cycling and walking around a working dock is a health and safety issue. So obviously they can't, in terms of providing active travel links within the dock, is very difficult. The applicants have agreeable to a Section 106 contribution of £188,960.65 towards active travel. As you are aware, we've had levelling up funding for Newbridge Road Bridge scheme, and we've highlighted that this money could go towards the shortfall in providing that or other active travel works within that general area. Turning to ecology, obviously, as you can imagine, due to the complexity of the site and health and safety, it's very difficult to plant trees and things within the application site. And as you say, there's lots of development there that will preclude that. However, they are providing some on-site ecological mitigation. So you've got the dark green areas of biodiversity walls. You've got coastal grassland provision. You've got pioneer grasslands. In addition, there's a protected species there, which is ox-tongue bloom rape. So there's an area there within one of the laydown areas. And the proposals are to provide existing substrate for ox-tongue bloom rape. The grey hatching is the area to be lost due to the proposals. And again, the yellow is the receptor areas. In addition to this, the applicants, as I said, the land is owned by ABP, and the applicants, along with ABP, have been working towards a strategic solution to ecological mitigation, not just for this development, but also for the wider ABP proposals. The ABP have purchased a site in Jersey Marine to provide off-site mitigation. And these are the areas in Jersey Marine that they've purchased, and they have proposals in terms of off-site mitigation, in terms of the ecology, which are all controlled through the application. In terms of drainage, obviously, as one of the other consents that they require is a SARBS approval. So whilst they've been undertaking pre-app, there's no formal submission through SARBS at the moment, and the current process is to look at splitting into 3 different areas of low, medium, and high hazard. But we understand that the pre-application process in terms of SARB is coming up with appropriate solutions to deal with that. So finally, in terms of the socioeconomic impacts, as we've set out in the report, the proposals in terms of the wider economic regeneration of the area, we've had a response from our regen and economic development section, which show how this would obviously be the first of its kind in the UK as a new technology. It's fitting in with the obviously decarbonisation agenda of both the UK and Wales. In terms of employment, here you've obviously got details of how they've set out the local impacts and wider impacts in terms of employment. There's 85 full-time equivalent jobs on site, and between 100 and 150 additional spin-off jobs in terms of supply chains and other developments that will go on, hopefully, due to the investment in the area. So that our recommendation is approval, subject to the conditions that are set out in the report and the signing of the legal agreement in terms of the contribution for active travel. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chris, for that report. I will now ask the local ward member if he wishes to come in at this point. Councillor Rob Jones.
Yes, if you don't mind, Chair.
No, of course, Rob. Okay.
Thank you, and thank you for allowing me to come today to speak about this application on behalf of myself and Councillor Keogh and Councillor Williams. To be honest, I think this is a very exciting application and something that is desperately needed in the area. We can never forget that the area that is proposed with this application is in fact an industrial area in the first place, and therefore it sits very well within that groundswell of location. I must pay tribute, first of all, to Chris, an excellent presentation, one of the best I've seen. And I've seen many presentations, having been a former chair of this committee for a number of years. But I will also pay tribute to the officer that compiled this report. It is one of the best reports I've ever seen that's come to the committee. It's a flowing report. It's got simplified detail that is sufficient to meet the application, but also inform members clearly of the pros and cons of this application. And I'm sorry to hear you saying that you're not going to be giving a fly drone presentation at any future meetings, because I'd come to see those alone, Chris. I found that to be quite exciting in the sense of giving members a real view of what this application will mean to the businesses in the area and local residents that may have a view of this. I must say as well, a complimentary word to Turley, who are the consultants employed by Lanzatech to work this application to come to you. They engaged with the 3 local members at a very early stage of this process, seeking views and comments about it. They have kept us informed all the way through the process, even notifying us when this was coming to committee. And I do take my hat off to them, because if every company that puts these applications forward liaised as they have with local members, it certainly keeps local members informed, up to date with what's going on, We were engaged with the PAC applications. A real gold star for them in relation to the way that they've interacted with us. This is an exciting application. It will create well-paid jobs from an international company that has an excellent reputation. It is something that meets the decarbonisation agenda, particularly as aviation fuel is one of the highest users and emitters of a carbon footprint. And I'm glad to say that not only will we be leading the way in Wales, but it is a feather in the cap for Neath Talbot Council that LanzaTech has actually decided that they wish to build, operate and produce the product for the aviation sector. And we will be a leading light in relation to hopefully further developments of this type of technology going forward. I hope the committee will follow the recommendations of Mr. Davis and the planning committee to approve this recommendation. It is an excellent example of the innovative way that our planning department and officers work to encourage the likes of these companies to come to Neath Talbot, and in particular Port Talbot itself, to develop these new technologies and create employment and onward investment into Port Talbot. So thank you for allowing me to come and speak, Chair, and I hope the committee will take cognizance of the recommendation in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor Crowley, I see you got your hand up, but as not being a member of the committee, I'll go to Councillor Tim Bowen first.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to come in on what Councillor Jones has just said. This presentation was absolutely brilliant. We watched it yesterday in the pre-briefing, and it was brought up yesterday that perhaps this is a way forward for the planning committee to do the drone footage. It would save a lot of site visits, and new ward members who are not don't know the areas. It was fantastic, and just to go out and say thank you to all the officers involved in this, and well done.
Yes, I got to agree with you, Councillor Bowen. An excellent presentation. Councillor Crowley, do you have a specific question for this item, please?
Yes, I do, if I can, Chair. As you know, you quite rightly pointed out.
Okay, then. Come in then, thank you.
As you quite rightly pointed out, I'm not a member of this committee. I was slightly disappointed, as you can see from the drone footage, how near my community is towards this particular proposal. It's the only housing development you could see, which is the Little Warren. So I was slightly disappointed I wasn't invited today on that basis for another issue on the agenda. But I'd just like to say it's an outstanding presentation. I've never sat on planning because I don't choose not to, but an outstanding application put forward, and we seem to work very, very well with the big operators. LanzaTech, I got to say, even though I am not a ward member of where it is, have been outstanding in their collaboration with me and my ward colleagues. I went along to all the presentations that they've done locally with my community, and they were first class, and they've been a first class company. And I got to agree with what Councillor Rob Jones said. It's a first class organisation in a global company, and hands down to them for deciding to come to Neath Port Talbot, and particularly onto the Port Talbot site of Tata Works. So an outstanding job all round, and if I were on that committee, I would certainly give it my vote. But thank you for that. I just one question around that is, how long did the application take from pre-application to today? How long? What sort of time scale was involved there? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. In terms of discussions, I think that we've been having discussions with LanzaTech for a number of years. I mean, they originally were speaking to our economic development and regen section, and then came to us once they'd looked at various different sites proposals for the development. So we've been in informal pre-application discussions, as I said, for at least 2 years prior to even anything more formal coming into us. As well as that, we've obviously been in protracted discussions as well with ABP, who are the landowners. So we know that this development is the first part of a development within the wider docks area, which will show the commitment of the authority to the regeneration of the docks. As you're aware, there was an announcement last week that ABP were granted FlowMIS funding for their offshore wind proposals. So they're one of only 2 schemes that were granted, I think it was a share of £140 million. Again, we've made sure that those proposals and this proposal are synchronized, so that there's no potential for any of the developments to kind of sterilize anyone else. So they've been working together with that. But in terms of the exact dates, I'm not 100% sure, but as I said, it's years in the making, this day today. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Councillor Crowley. I will now take questions from members of the committee. Members, do you have any questions to ask the officers? Councillor Patson.
Thank you very much, Chair. Like my colleagues who have spoken, I'm not going to ask questions to find a way not to do this, but I feel an obligation on behalf of the residents of the county borough to ask a few basic questions, because I've mentioned this to a few people, and the first thing that comes back, and the report is good, but people watching this back probably won't read the report, so I'm going to ask a few questions now, if that's all right, Chair. First one is, why did Lanzatech decide on this site? In general terms, obviously. What was it about this site that drew Lanzatech to it?
I mean, there's probably a number of reasons. One is obviously it has access to the deep harbour, which is essential to their scheme. The waste ethanol, the ethanol produced by waste is obviously it's more sustainable to bring that in by ship, and it can be brought into the dock but that way. And again, the finished product in terms of sustainable jet fuel, it's more sustainable to take that out by ship again. Our understanding is that can be taken out by tanker out to Bristol, and then there's direct pipelines up to the main airports in London. So I mean, that's one of the reasons it can do. One of the other things is obviously Neath Talbot's a great place to want to develop, because we can deliver these types of products and developments. And I think there's obviously potential synergy with Tata. So obviously, in terms of this process, this is the part of the development that turns the ethanol into jet fuel, but there's also the precursor which turns waste gases into ethanol. And obviously, at the moment, that's produced in other places, and that would be brought in as the finished ethanol product. But there are opportunities in the future for that to take the waste gases from Tata as it exists now, and also as it may change in the future through the electric arc furnace that may come forward. That again is still possible that we could get that other phase of development. So there's lots of linkages in terms of the logic to why it was in that area.
Okay. Second one then is, most people that I've spoken to who have been aware of the application have said, is it safe? Because the answers are in the report, but again, people who want to know what's going on, and we do these hybrid meetings for people to access what is going on with and the decisions that are made by the council. So could we just have an answer to basically what residents will say is, oh, it looks, you mention aviation fuel, and people go, oh, hang on, isn't that very dangerous? So could I have a brief answer to that then, please?
Yeah, as I said, if you look at pages 15 and 16, it sets out not just that the planning consent is required, but there's obviously lots of others: environmental permits, greenhouse gas permits, water abstraction licenses, hazard substances consent, COMA, marine licenses, and also SARBs. as part of this process, the applicant has already been undertaking discussions with the HSC and COMA in relation to their zones. We've seen information in relation to where they've got to on those, and those zones barely extend outside of the application site that we've got. As I touched on earlier, it is very important for us as an authority to make sure that we're not approving something that sterilises development within the wider area, because everyone knows about the Figure Ports proposals. So not just ourselves have looked at that, but also ABP as the landowner would not want something to come in on their site, which would basically preclude them being able to develop fully their aspirations for offshore wind. So in terms of the proposals, you know, there's inherent risks with everything. However, there's so many other checks and balances outside of planning that that cover all those issues on a more technical basis. So all of those other consents would be required. So even things like air quality, whilst we've assessed it, there are still environmental permits that go in place that would address that. And obviously this is assessed against the current baseline of this existing situation as we see now. So TATA in its present form and ABP in its present form have all been considered as part of that holistic look at the impacts in terms of the environmental impact assessment as well.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. I think, you know, you've done a good job there in showing anybody that is watching this back that it's only one part in the process. People do, if you're not involved in government and local government, you tend to think, oh, well, that decision's been made, but it's part of the decision, and all the other parts are to do with the safety aspect of the whole. So I think thank you for that brief explanation. And if a consultee has in the report, it says certain consultees have no objection. Does that mean that they haven't replied, or is it that they just have no objection? Because sometimes you get people who are consultees who make no observations, and we say, well, they didn't object. So what is that?
No, I think where we've stated no objection, we've had responses from people, as you see from the conditions. Yeah, it'll say no response if we haven't had a response. So in terms of the ones with no objection, we've had a response that says no objection, and obviously we've had others that have got quite the number of conditions on. So as you see from the conditions, some of those are being required by NRW or Welsh Water, our ecologists, etc. So and highways. So all of those have been set as being put in as part of the application and the recommendation.
Yeah, and I thank you for that. And again, I must reiterate, I'm only asking the questions so that people don't have to read the report. And if they watch back, they can say, oh, well, that question was asked and that question was asked and answered. So I'm very grateful to you. I also think this is, you know, a good application for this area. It is already an industrial zone site, so we should expect applications of an industrial nature. I think that the planning in conjunction with Lanstech and others have done a very good job. I also add my congratulations to anybody that's been involved in the submitting of this report, and I hope you'll bear with me, you know, when I answered those basic questions. But there is for a reason, that people don't have to, and they won't bother reading. It's a technical report. They won't, but you know, if you're not involved in it, you probably wouldn't, unless you had a specific reason to. So I'm grateful for all the responses, and I'm quite happy to cease now with my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Patson. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I will also be supporting this application, but to concur with everyone who's spoken so far, as fabulous presentation, Chris. And like Rob Jones said, and Suzanne Patterson, it is an industrial site. Some people might not know, but coke ovens are in the news at the moment, and that was the old site of the old Grange coke ovens. And I'd like £1 for every time I went up and down that road in my 38 plus years of working in the steelworks. So yes, it's a welcome addition to the area. Just a quick question, just for people who perhaps have read the report, members of the public, I know the answer, but can you just clarify? It says the input of water is like 700 to 800,000 cubic meters of water, and the output is 300,000 plus. So people think, hang about, you're going to drain the dock. I mean, so can you just explain that when the dock gates are open, that's when the input of more water will come in, isn't it? I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah, as part of the application, it obviously states that they require an abstraction license. I mean, that's something they require as a separate consenting process through NRW. You know, they've already had consultation and discussions with NRW, but it'd be dealt with as part of that process. Obviously, you know, we don't know what changes may happen in terms of Tata with their needs for extraction for water, but ultimately, as we touched on earlier, and Councillor Padson mentioned, there's lots of different permissions that they require. This is just one small bit. This is the first bit in some respects, and then all the other consents follow. So hopefully all the other consents will follow to a point that we'll actually see the development happen on site. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Thank you, Chris. Are there any other questions of members? Councillor Griffiths.
Thank you, Chair. It's not a question, it's just a statement, really. As Cabinet member for this committee, I'd like to congratulate everybody who's been involved in this. I saw this plan about a week ago and I thought, wow, it's a takeoff for Talbot, Neath for Talbot. And I'd like to thank Lanzatech for their input and bringing it to Neath for Talbot. And again, just thank you on behalf really of the Cabinet. Thanks very much, and a good presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd just like to send my thanks to Councillor Keogh, because he's not here today, but he's been invaluable in telling me the history of this site and the docks. Allegedly, as a child, he canoed, speedboated, various other things in that dock, and he's told me quite a lot about the history of the site. So I know he can't be here today for personal reasons, but thank him for all of his input into telling us the history of the area. And I'd also like to give thanks personally to Matthew for the amount of work that he's put in terms of this application, but also to his team leader, Nicola Lake, who's been dealing with this in terms of pre-application discussions for many years. I think, thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Councillor Davis.
Diolch yn fawr. It was an excellent presentation and I understood it far better after seeing the drone and everything. And can I also say, it's very exciting for Port Talbot itself, but not only Port Talbot, the whole of Neath Port Talbot. So thank you very much. And I wish the company well. I'm just wondering, what is the time scale before there is actually production? Is there...
Excuse me, Councillor Davis. You were cut off in the chamber.
Oh.
Would it be okay if you to start from the beginning again, please?
Oh gosh, here we go now. Did you hear the excellent presentation?
Sorry, thank you.
And the excellent news for Port Talbot and for the whole of Neath Port Talbot borough. I was just wondering, is there a time scale before it comes into production?
I think the aspiration is that with all the other consents and the actual development of the scheme, I believe, and I'm waiting for someone to nod at me from the back, I think it's 2026 they were hoping to start production. Yeah, it may well be a year later. You know, if members of committee are interested, obviously we'll keep them up to date in terms of processes. And I think, as some of the councillors touched on earlier, in terms of the communication and the social media kind of side, I'm sure that there'll be information out there. And again, I think it would be important for us on a development of this scale that we probably communicate any key stages within the development to local members, not just within Margam and Tye Bark, but also in the adjoining areas, because as Councillor Crowley pointed out earlier, there's lots of residential development on the opposite side. So we'll kind of make sure the councillors are made aware of the timescales and any key events so that we keep everyone informed, so you can inform your constituents then. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Councillor Davis. Now moving on to the recommendation, which starts on page 80 of the report. And again, this application is stated as for approval. Could I have a proposer and a seconder to consider the recommendation?
Proposed, Chair.
Thank you.
I'll be the second, Chair.
Thank you. Chloe, could you please ask each member if they have been present for the whole of this item and how they wish to vote, please?
Thank you, Chair. Okay, starting with Councillor Harrod Aubrey. Have you been present for the whole item and how do you wish to vote?
Yes, and I'm in favour of the application.
Thank you. Councillor Tim Bowen, have you been present for the whole item and how do you wish to vote?
Yes, been present and in favour.
Thank you. Councillor Heath Davis, have you been present for the whole item and how do you wish to vote?
Yes, and with pleasure. It's a yes from me.
Thank you. Councillor Rosalind Davis, have you been present for the whole item and how do you wish to vote?
I have been present for the whole item and I'm in favour of the application. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you. Councillor Cathy James, have you been present for the whole item and how do you wish to vote?
Yes, I've been present for the whole item and I'm in favour.
Thank you. And now see yourself, Chair.
Yes, I vote in favour for the application.
Thank you. Now we move on to Councillor Mason. Have you been present for the whole item and how do you wish to vote?
In favour of the.
Thank you. And now Councillor Patterson.
Yes, I've been here, Chloe, and I vote for the recommendation.
Thank you. And same question to Councillor Phil Rogers.
Yes, I've been present for the whole presentation and I'm in favour of the recommendation.
Thank you. And finally, Councillor Sarah Thomas. Same question.
Yes. Yes, I've been present and I'm in favour of the recommendation.
Thank you. That's everyone in attendance today, Chair, so I can confirm that application has been approved.
Thank you, Chloe. The second application we look at today is the application number 2024-0057 18 Darwin Road. The report is set out on pages 97 to 104 of this application is recommended for approval. I would now like to ask the planning officers to take us through the report.
Okay, this is planning application 2024-57 for an attached garage at 18 Darwin Road, Sandfield. This application is before planning committee because the applicant is a close relative of one of the local members, and I would draw members to the report and the amendment sheet. So the application site is a semi-detached property within Darwin Road. This is the application site, and the hatched area on the lower part of the drawing is the proposed single-storey garage that's part of this application. This is a proposed layout plan of the garage. So the plans at the top are the existing elevations, plans at the bottom are proposed. You'll see the single-storey garage extension located off the side of the existing two-storey rear side element. So there's the existing dwelling, and the garage will be located off the side there, where the just in front of where the small white van is located. So within this area here and into that area beyond the wall. Again, there's a view from the rear of the property. So the application, the recommendation is for approval, subject to the conditions that you see set out within the report. You note the amendment sheet in terms of just clarification in terms of the SPG in terms of parking. The garage being slightly substandard, however, it's not required to provide car parking for the property itself, so it can be still considered to be acceptable. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chris. Local ward member Matthew Crowley is present, so would you like to speak?
No, I have no objections. Very difficult, Chair, as you know, my ward colleagues involved. I am in support of the application, but as you know, I am going to vote in this remit. I'm only here as an observer and a ward member. But thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Crowley. I would now like to ask if there's any members have any questions. Thank you. Now moving on to the recommendation, which starts on page 100 of the report. And again, this application is stated as for approval. Could I have a proposer and seconder to consider the recommendation?
Happy to propose, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Patterson, for seconding. Okay. Chloe, could you ask each member if they have been present for the whole of this item and how they wish to vote, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So starting with Councillor Howard Aubrey, have you been present for the whole item and how do you wish to vote?
Yes, I'm in favour.
Thank you. And same questions to Councillor Tim Bowen.
Yes, been present and in favour.
Thank you. Councillor Heath Davis, same questions.
Yes, in favour.
Thank you. Councillor Rosalind Davis, the same.
Yes, in favour o blaid. Diolch.
Thank you. Councillor Cathy James.
Yes, I've been present for the whole item and I'm in favour.
Thank you. Chair.
Yes, I am in favour.
Thank you. And Councillor Rydia Mason. Thank you. Councillor Patterson.
Yes, I've been here, Chloe, and I vote for the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Phil Rogers, same questions.
Present and in favour.
Thank you. And Councillor Sarah Thomas.
Yes, I've been present. I'm in favour.
Thank you. That's everyone in attendance, Chair. I can confirm that application has been approved.
Thank you, Chloe. Now we move on to section B of the agenda, which is matters for information. Agenda items 7, 8 and 9 detail the appeals determined, appeals received. Sorry.
I'd just like to draw your attention, it's been drawn to my attention, that one of the appeal decisions states that it was determined in 2036, but it wasn't. We're not that good. So the date was wrong on that. The decision, we still won the appeal, but just to clarify, because it was pointed out to me yesterday that one of the dates has gone in the future. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you, Chris. Agenda items 7, 8 and 9 detail the appeals determined, appeals received and delegated decisions from the timeframe as detailed in each circulated report. As Chair, I can confirm that we note the information contained within these reports. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to say it's pleasing to see how many appeals were upheld. It shows the quality of work from our officers in preparing these, and actually the results in the end were good. Sound. Thank you.
Sorry. Councillor Phil Rogers.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple on there. Obviously, we noted there's a couple of points on the one on the Neath Abbey School for the parking and things. Can we have any update on that, please? Because my grandchildren go to the school and parking up there is terrible. I notice on page 195. Just wanted a bit more detail, that's all, please.
Was that in terms of an appeal or was it a delegated decision?
Oh, it's the delegated decision, Chris. I just wanted to see what the progress is and what the plans are, because it seems to be open for a while now, and parking is a major issue up there.
What page of the agenda pack is that on, Councillor Rogers?
It's page 195.
Yeah, obviously the agenda just sets out the decisions that we've made, so we can get back to you. We can speak to our internal sections who deal with that, and we can get. I'll come back to you, hopefully later today with progress on when those works are going to be carried out.
Hey, thank you for that, Chris. Yeah, just there was one other one as well. Just a little query on one of the reports there. It's on page 197, just 2 pages ahead. There's one that Penskinner House, Penskinner, Kilfrew, and it's down as my ward, but Kilfrew is in Aberdeen ward. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Jen. Thank you, Councillor Rogers. Noted.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Councillor Rogers. We move on now with the agenda, and agenda item 10 is urgent items. I can confirm we have no urgent items today. Agenda item 11 is access to meetings, exclusion of the public. Members, at this point, we have to consider the information contained within the private report. The pursuant to section 100A 4 and 5 of the Local Government Act 1972. The public be excluded for the following items of business, which involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 16 of part 4 of schedule 12A of the above act. Are members in agreement to move into private session? I propose, if I could have a seconder, please.
Second, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Mason and Councillor Bowen. Yeah. Members, if you don't indicate to the contrary by raising your hands, I will assume that you are in favour of moving into private session.
I see no indications of the contrary, Chair, so we now move into private session. I will just stop the recording.